Good evening from London, wrestling fans. I'm your host, Ben Allison, and you are listening to Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast, your one-stop shop for professional wrestling, insight, news, and of course reviews on a daily basis. It's Monday, and you know what that means. It means it's Mailbag, where you guys send in your questions via our Instagram story for us to answer. It's going to be a very, very fun show. We've got a lot of great questions, but when we have that many great questions, we need a great panel. Let's kick things off with the co-host of the show, Clark Taylor. Clark, how are you today?
What's going on? I am stoked to be here. I'm even more stoked. It looks like in the comments, Kobe Galanzowski said that our latte is ready. I think your latte is ready over at Tim Hortons, I would assume, all the way in Canada, but I am excited to be here. I love Mailbag Monday. I'm not always on Mailbag Monday, but you know I love answering questions, and I can't wait to get into that. Let's talk about it, man.
Absolutely. We do have a few comments. One from Kobe saying, we're going live late. Well, we did the classic thing of I clicked the button to go live. We did it, and then we realized we were not live. This time it wasn't even my own fault. It was a technical issue. But we got another comment, and that's from Shard, who is saying that he will be at Monday Night Raw tonight. Shard, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope it's a great show. And Bobby Petito's in the comments, who is saying that the Gates of Agony have been announced for the New Japan Pro Wrestling World Tag League. That is certainly exciting, but also something that is exciting is the AEW reviewer, David Sheldon, is here on the show with us today. David, how are you?
We weren't live, pal. I couldn't resist. Hello, everybody. Lovely to be here. Very excited to talk I was about to say talk AEW. Normally I'm on for an AEW thing, but we're not talking AEW. Well, we kind of are. We're doing Mailbag Monday, which I'm very, very excited for. Lots of very great questions this week and some interesting discussion points. So let's get at it.
Absolutely. And last but certainly not least, he's just come back from Spain. Josh Markowitz. Josh, how are you and how was Spain?
I'm tired, but I'm pumped. This is my first Mailbag Monday, so I'm stoked to be here and answer all the questions. Spain was great. Thank you very much for asking. They don't have a lot of professional wrestling there, which I was very upset about. Right when I got there, I Googled professional wrestling near me. No answers, unfortunately. But anyways, let's get to the questions. I'm ready to do it.
Absolutely. Maybe we need to fly over to Spain and start our own promotion there. But let's kick things off and let's talk about All Elite Wrestling's new tournament, the Continental Classic. They announced it a couple days ago on AEW Collision. We didn't have time to talk about it yesterday, but Jacob Johnson, shout out Jacob, on Instagram is asking us, will the Continental Classic get AEW back on track? And this is a very interesting one, right? Of course, as of late, a lot of people have been complaining that just random matches have been booked on AEW TV. AEW have started to lose even their hardcore audience. Even, if you see on Twitter, the people for years who've been tweeting, the really pro AEW accounts who've just been dissing WWE for years, and you're kind of like, what? Just enjoy both. Even now, they're starting to turn on AEW a bit. And of course, we all, literally, I don't think there is a person with any sense in the wrestling industry who doesn't want AEW to succeed, because a challenger brand is always good, but also just because we're fans of AEW, right? We all want it to succeed. I think we can all agree that minus a few good things, AEW as of late has been up or down, maybe one of the worst periods in the company so far. A lot of people, I think, have been, saying that maybe it's because of the roster size, which I do actually think is a great point, because it means that, stories aren't getting the amount of time they should get. But this tournament now is an excuse for AEW to do just random matches and for there to be a point in it, right? That's what tournaments are good for, right? It's very easy booking, if you want to call it that. I'm very excited for the tournament. I'm excited to see, Bryan Danielson compete in a G1-like tournament, I guess, because it's clear he won't be competing in the G1 itself. But will it, save AEW from their current problems? No, I think it's kind of putting paper over cracks, because their current problem is they're booking random matches. Now they're going to be booking random matches, which have a point, but after the tournament, well, you've lost your excuse again. But I am really excited for this tournament, and it's something that, as Tony Khan said, AEW fans have wanted for a long, long time, and now finally we are getting that opportunity to see it. Clark, what is your thoughts on the Continental Classic, and will it get AEW back on the right track?
I definitely am excited about the tournament itself. I think it's an oversimplification to say that it would be the lone concept that gets AEW back on track. The AEW's kind of gained some steam in my eyes the last few weeks between the Hangman and Swerve stuff and what they're doing with the Christian Cage and Edge stuff with Nick Wayne is still exciting, coupled with better booking of the women's division for consecutive weeks. And I got to give credit where it's due. I think it's another step in the right direction, and I think it's going to take a multitude of things for AEW to get fully back on the right track. But this tournament is another step in the right direction. It's exciting. I don't have a prediction necessarily, but I'm excited to see it. And yeah, I do think it's another, chess piece moved in the right direction as opposed to, taking a loss.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's a great point. And like you said, Hangman Swerve, we spoke about it on yesterday's show. Those guys are phenomenal together. That's a great feud. We also spoke about on yesterday's show the AEW women's division and the progress that has made lately. They're giving more time to more women, better character development and all of that. That is welcomed. That is great. But now it just feels like the rest of the product, I just think there's just not too much going on right now. I mean, one point which I've seen a lot of people making lately is, Takeshita beat Omega twice, and they've not made a big deal out of it since. It's like, that should be made a big deal of, and it's just tons of things like that. They're not capitalizing on, key moments anymore like they used to do so well. And it's just hopefully they do get right, back on track. But when you've got so many talents, it's difficult, right? We all know their views are down. We all know their social media engagement's massively down. Things need changing. Kobe is saying that he thinks it's a mistake that the prize has not been announced yet. Numero One Superfly is saying that, is Bryan Danielson going to be okay competing in the tournament, especially when he suffered that injury just recently? I don't think the tournament is starting yet. I think it's going to be later in this month. It'll start, or early next month. So hopefully, I mean, I'm sure he's fine. I'm sure they wouldn't have cleared him if there is going to be an issue there. And I mean, Bobby Batito's thrown out there. Maybe we'll see Will Ospreay in this tournament. That that could be very, very interesting. I would not be opposed to that one bit. But what about you, David? How are you feeling as the AEW reviewer heading into this tournament? Oh, for some reason we cannot hear you, David, unless that's on my end, but I don't think it is. We'll come back to you in just a second, but let's firstly head to Josh Markowitz. Josh, what do you think heading into this one?
Yeah, I'm really excited for this tournament, actually. I don't think this tournament is just going to get them right back on track. But as Clark mentioned, it's a very big step getting to where they want to be. I think this is a really big thing. And with big things come with big challenges. And I think there's going to be a really big challenge for Tony Khan and AEW Creative for both the participants and the match quality. For starters, I mean, you have to choose 12 wrestlers out of that absolutely stacked roster of talent. Like, it's sort of like, where do you go if you're Tony choosing? I mean, at one point, you kind of want to go with, let's choose the 12 best wrestlers, most popular wrestlers. Let's get the most amount of eyes we can get on this tournament. But then again, it's kind of like, do we want to choose some wrestlers that maybe aren't featured as much and we want to build their character and get more eyes on their product? So, if I'm Tony, I wouldn't want to be Tony in this situation, because not only, you have to tell these people that you're not in this tournament when I'm sure people think they, deserve it, But then again, you need 12 wrestlers. That's not a lot out of all the talent that AEW has on that roster. And then again, the match quality is really important to me. We know AEW has proven it on pay-per-views, on Dynamite, even on Rampage, Collision, that they can deliver very, very good matches on weekly programming. So when you have a tournament of this magnitude, and you're trying to you're using this tournament to take that good step in that right direction, we need these matches to be good. Absolutely no squash matches. First of all, I think that's a given. Second of all, these matches should be given 15 to 30 minutes on Dynamite or wherever they're taking place. I think every match, of course, there's the don't have a spot fest, or there's a time restraint. I understand that, but then again, I think every match needs to deliver. I don't think there should be any matches that we should be like, that didn't really deliver. I think every match needs to deliver if they want this tournament to succeed. And I am really excited for this. And, I think just make this the best quality matches, try your hardest to get everyone that deserves to participate. And the cards are really in Tony's hands. So I guess we'll just have to see what he does with them.
Absolutely. And you brought up a great point there about, the selection process that Tony Khan is going through, right? And my only concern for this is that, he picks people such as, Jeff Jarrett or people like that, and you're just shaking your head. You're like, why? I think they should have, like you said, 8 to 9 of the best wrestlers, and then maybe a Wheeler Yuta or Daniel Garcia or even a Lee Moriarty, a wild shout like that. A couple of wrestlers then who you young wrestlers who might not be in the top 12 stars in the company, but who, can be really elevated for the future. So I really wouldn't mind if we see three young names in there who maybe aren't in that top 12 category, but could be in the future. But I don't want to see any like Jeff Jarrett in there, or any, really lower mid-card guys who maybe don't have, a big future plan for them in AEW. Let's have this as a stacked tournament, a tournament which will excite fans and draw people into AEW again, saying, hey, I need to check out this Dynamite, and also, hey, I need to check out this Rampage, because surely these matches, I'm presuming, will be across all three brands. As Kobe points out, it starts on November 22nd, so there's not too much time, to get this all done. There's just over a month, 2 groups of 6, so there's a lot of matches to get done. But yeah, Rampage gives a reason to watch that as well. But David, you're the AEW reviewer. You review Rampage, you review Dynamite, you review Collision. Will this fix their problems?
Can you hear me, first of all?
Yes, we can.
Yay!
Woo!
I'm back. I'm here. Will it? I mean, I never really think a tournament is particularly a tournament that's quite makeshift, is a way to fix any company's problems. I mean, I enjoy AEW's weekly television product. I wouldn't be reviewing it if I didn't. I don't think the company is putting out terrible television right now, but it's put out better television, and especially from a business standpoint, it does need a boost, certainly. And the way to do that is the product needs to be more cohesive as an overall product. I don't know if, like you said, just having a tournament with really good matches is enough, because every week we get good matches. I've given so many matches 4 stars plus on AEW programming because their in-ring product has never been their issue. They're incredible. They're incredible wrestlers who are given lots of time to have very great wrestling matches. The problem is how you kind of build that into a whole thing. I think the Continental Classic will be great. I do think it is a case of we don't want to send Bryan Danielson to the G1, but he really wants to do a G1, so we'll give him his own G1. That's kind of half the length of a normal G1 and is on AEW programming, because he's obviously... They mentioned in the promo that Danielson is wrapping up being a full-time wrestler soon. So, let him fulfill one of his wishes and get a tournament, and I do think it'll be a great tournament. I think it'll be a lot of fun. There'll be some fantastic matches, but in order for any tournament to be successful, what has to be the undercurrent of that is the stories that come into it and the stories that come out of it. The greatest wrestling tournament I think probably have ever been booked was Deadly Games Survivor Series 1998. And that was a one-night tournament with matches that were mostly quite naff. But the stories that went around it were so interesting that you were hooked from the start. And this is going to be a thing that focuses primarily on the in-ring action, because that's AEW's thing. But there has to be those storylines to make it interesting. Do I think this is going to be the overnight fix to their business? No. I'm surprised they didn't do this like a month earlier and just have it tied in with the Continental TV show. the John Wick spin-off, because it would have been a perfect thing for the Continental Classic. But it's going to be a really good tournament in this for the sense of in ring action. I just hope it has the storyline things to go with it. But it is just a nice fun thing on TV that needs to come with a lot of other changes to really get the product back to its peak.
I could not agree more. I think you said it perfectly there, David. Kobe's agreeing with you, saying, having stories within it which invest you, and even coming out of it as well. I think those are, two very important things. I mean, of course, Tony Khan, we know he's a big fan of New Japan. Bobby Petito saying, what happens if he picks some New Japan wrestlers? Maybe that's a possibility.
I don't think there's enough people. I don't think there's. I wouldn't put New Japan wrestlers in this, only because for the G1 they've got so many people they can play with. That they've got spaces to throw in some AEW guys, some Impact guys. For this, I would strictly keep it, with the only possible exception of Ospreay, because I get the feeling that they might be trying to recruit Ospreay, but for the most part, keep it in house.
There are only two issues though with the entire thing around New Japan being involved, and that the biggest thing is that it wraps up a week before the G1, but just over a week before the G1. So I mean that would be very, very difficult to pull off. You're risking it quite a bit, depending on if you send any of your top talents to AEW. But yeah, like you said, Will Ospreay, that would be a good exception. But also, Tony Khan, big fan of New Japan. New Japan do that yearly tournament, the G1. He said before he's a fan of that. They have booked some very good G1s over the years, which tell stories going in and a lot coming out. And that coming out of it especially is what they need to tell. Going in, it's a bit late. Coming out, well, for the most part, coming out, you can do so much. Indeed. And yeah, sorry, I meant Wrestle Kingdom. I had the G1 in my head. January 4th, Tokyo Dome. Well, I'm excited for it. We're all excited for it. But now let's move on to, something which I think excites all of us, and that is the future. It either excites us or terrifies us, or a mix of both. Well, and I'm so sorry, we all know I'm rubbish at names, at Kostav_the_notorious on Instagram is asking us, WWE has many fantastic superstars, but who do you think will be the face of the company after Roman Reigns? And before we get into this one, right, the biggest thing that you've got to think of when you're answering this question is age. I know people, we always joke about me, having to go with LA Knight for being too old or whatever. That's not even what I'm talking about, sure. The face of your company, the face of the company needs to be able to be there for 15, 20 years, right? That needs to be the plan, or at least 10 to 15, okay? Roman Reigns, I imagine, is probably going to be wrapping up his career slightly before they wanted him to, because only, the last couple of years they're really profiting off, him being a star, right? It's coming out of, the pandemic, which, again, the bloodline gimmick's an element of that, but also he's just more well-known now because time's gone on, and he's been in that, big picture for so long. I think the guy needs to be Braun Breaker, right? And that's not me saying Braun Breaker needs to beat Reigns for the title, but it's just me saying after Roman Reigns, the next face, in my opinion, should be Braun Breaker. Clark, what is your thoughts?
So I think this is a way more complicated question than I anticipated, and I'm really excited that I got to answer this one because it's a great question. I will start with, I'm not entirely sure he or her, they have been even signed or seen yet, because I'm not entirely sure that Roman Reigns is going away as soon as we think he is. He may be cutting back his schedule further, but I don't think he's a guarantee for Hollywood. I don't even know if that's what he wants to do. I think Roman Reigns has played it smart in the position he's in being part-time at times. And I think he's in a position to, down the road, slide delightfully into a role that Brock Lesnar's played for a long time. Still, if that's what he wants to do, and have as much time off as he'd like and make as much money as he'd like. And that's not saying that Roman Reigns couldn't succeed in Hollywood. It's just that I don't know if that's what he wants to do. I haven't heard him exactly say that outside of maybe in a WWE ring talking about Hollywood. But, it's I've never heard him express deeply, I want to be an actor. I don't know necessarily what else he does. So maybe his schedule is light, but I think that Roman Reigns is the face of the company for a long time. My answer to the question, though, is I don't necessarily know that it's a guy, because I look at Bianca Belair and Rhea Ripley, and I believe that those two are as big a candidates to be the face of the WWE as anyone. Now, I love Carmelo Hayes and Braun Breaker, who you mentioned earlier, as much as the next guy on the short list thus far. And then one dark horse that I'm going to give, because she kind of went out on her own and has done her own thing. I don't know that Sasha Banks doesn't come back and end up being the face of the company down the road, given she is still not that old and there's time, and Sasha is a star and has shown. Mercedes Moné, say what you will about, her run in New Japan so far. She was still on The Mandalorian. She's got as much of a Hollywood crossover already, in a way where if she commits again full time and we bring back Sasha Banks, that's a dark horse. I absolutely believe that that's possible. But I mean, yeah, to me, I don't have a definitive answer, and I kind of wish I did. I'll throw in one more dark horse. If Max makes the jump, MJF is the answer to the question.
Yeah. No, I mean that certainly is a great point. We've got Shard in the comments saying Carmelo Hayes. I mean, Carmelo Hayes is another great one. I'd love to see Braun Breaker and Carmelo Hayes, both being in that position and just being long-time rivals for like a decade, 2 decades. That would be sick, because they've done some great work in NXT. But Numero One Superfly's got a great point. He names quite a few, but the one which really sticks out to me is Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley, we forget how young she is, right? She's, I think by like a few days or months, it's one way or another, younger or maybe ever so slightly older than Dominic Mysterio. Pardon?
I did mention Ripley with Belair.
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear you say Ripley.
No, I said Rhea Ripley.
Fair enough. But Rhea Ripley, we forget how young she is, right? I mean, I think she's like 6 years younger than Bianca Belair even, right? Rhea Ripley is one of the youngest stars right now on the main roster, which is just absolutely crazy. And we already know, social media-wise, she gets the most views in the company, right? And social media is the way forward. That's the younger generation who are going to be the next generation. I mean, that is crazy. She's only 27 years old. She can go basically as long as she wants to go. Maybe 15, maybe even 20 years left of her career. Rhea Ripley could well be the face on all of those posters long term, and is often somebody I think we overlook. Maybe because she's not booked to wrestle that much. Maybe that's a good point. But now let's move on and let's talk about people who aren't booked to wrestle, because Bobby B910 is asking, who do you think deserves more time in WWE and AEW that currently doesn't get enough time? This is a great question, right? Because as wrestling fans, I always say it, we love to, say, so-and-so should be booked better, so-and-so should be booked better. I've already said it, recently, I'll say it again. In WWE, Cameron Grimes, undoubtedly for me. I mean, this guy's young, and he gets over with a crowd when he's given an opportunity so well. He can reinvent himself so well. He's literally the perfect plug-and-play guy. Like, he should be in a situation, right? I'm not saying he should be in the main event. That's not what I'm saying. But he should be being used better than he currently is. AEW, there's quite a few guys, so I'm going to come back to that one after I pass it to David. David, WWE and AEW, who was it? Who in both would you say doesn't get enough TV time?
Oh, there's loads. There are the thing with having rosters the sizes that AEW and WWE have got is that there are so many wrestlers who don't get the TV time that they demand. I mean, on the WWE front, again, Cameron Grimes was the first person I thought of because he's just disappeared off the face of the planet. I'm gonna, and there's also in AEW's end, there's so many. Isaiah Cassidy being a big one who I'd love to see. He gets TV time, but not where I think he should be. I think that he's infinitely more talented and more kind of can do a lot more than he's doing now, which is kind of lackey. Also, so many of the women's divisions in both companies, to be honest. I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm just going to go off on what I love to do, which is talk about horror. because I love wrestling characters that are different, and I love wrestling characters that are out there and bizarre. So I've gone with people who I don't necessarily want to see wrestle, but I want to see on TV more. I'd love to see Abaddon featured more, because she's got one of my favorite looks in wrestling, and she's on TV once a year every Halloween. And I think she can do so much more than that. I just love the visual. I think there's so much character there, which is what AEW's women's division is crying out for. And again, not necessarily somebody that I'm crying out to see back on TV. But where's Dexter Loomis gone? What happened to Dexter? He was on TV for ages when he came. He was on TV for ages when he came back. The feud with the Miz I liked because it was camp, but a lot of people didn't. And then he just disappeared. And we haven't seen from him in ages. Like, there's so much possibilities for these character actors like Dexter, like Abaddon. Not necessarily to be the world's greatest wrestlers, but to add a bit of variety and spice to your TV show. And from my own, again, there's loads of people who are incredible athletes who I'd, of course, probably like to see more than these guys. But I thought I'd be different and talk about some of the kind of the weird and wacky characters that I enjoy seeing, and I just don't feel like they're used enough.
Yeah, no, I mean, honestly, that's a good point. Danhausen, another one. I thought you were going to say Danhausen, to be honest there, David.
Well, Danhausen's supposed to be coming back, so I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt on that one.
Benefit of the doubt. There, we got Shard saying for WWE, Omos. Bobby Petito sent in the question. Shout out Bobby, who's saying Butcher and the Blade in AEW. And Kobe saying in NXT, Axiom is such a great talent. I mean, then we go back to AEW, and I think the big one in AEW who should have been a star, there's quite a few of them you could go with. I'm going to go with Keith Lee, because Keith Lee faced off with Brock Lesnar in the Royal Rumble, and it seemed like the biggest thing ever, right? Things didn't work out for him in WWE, but then he jumped to AEW. AEW could have done so much with him, and they've just done literally nothing with him other than that, swerve run. Which, in fairness, that really elevated Swerve, I think. But that's it, unfortunately. But now let's move on, and let's move on to the next question by @KJ_2raw_K4 on Instagram, who is asking, what is your favorite WWE show right now between Raw or NXT or SmackDown at the moment? This is a very, very good question. I mean, all three have, their advantages. I'm going to pass it to Josh first. Josh, which of those three shows is currently your favorite?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's a hard question. I kind of stared at this question for a while. And, for starters, I want to give praise to all three shows, because truly I enjoy all three of WWE's weekly programming. And to think back to 2019 and 2020, to think of the progress that they've made in their weekly programming, it's outstanding. The quality, so much better. Personally, in-ring, literally everything is better. So just want to say that for starters. But, this is it's an opinionated question, so there's going to be some biased opinions in the answer. But for me, I'm going to go Raw. And I think that, I think the big part of this is the World Heavyweight Championship presence that we get on Raw. Just knowing that every Monday we can, possibly look forward to a World Heavyweight Championship match in the main event. That's something really big for me. Even knowing on SmackDown that there's just no shot Roman's going to show up and, defend his title on SmackDown, because it's just not going to happen. And, we have Rollins, of course, great champion, having a great run. We've seen some matches on Raw, so love his work as a champion. And then, of course, we have Gunther. I absolutely love Gunther. I love Imperium, Ludwig Kaiser. Gunther not only having one of the best Intercontinental Championship runs of all time, or the best run of all time, in my opinion, I think most people's opinions. But, whenever we get to see him on Raw, he absolutely kills it. Ludwig Kaiser, always killing it. I love Ludwig Kaiser. I hope he'll be holding a belt very, very soon, in my opinion. And, I think that, I don't want to get any hate. I'm sure I'm going to get some hate from Shad and Drizzy and Clark, because they're big NXT guys. I think it's that World Heavyweight Championship presence that we feel. And I think SmackDown is weaker than NXT. I do like NXT a lot. We do get more championship matches on NXT than SmackDown, but I do just like the whole Raw thing more. I will say the one weakness I feel for Raw is, look, am I a big fan of Judgment Day? Yes. Am I a fan of the same booking every single week? Absolutely not. And I hope it ends after War Games, which it seems like it will, because War Games is kind of like that final boss stage, like a video game or something like that. So I hope that's going to end, because I'm kind of sick of seeing the Judgment Day wrestle the same match every single night. And it's literally happening again tonight for the main event. And I
Oh
feel like it's the
gosh,
same
yeah.
ending. It's the same match. It's either Judgment Day versus Sammy or Cody or Jey Uso. And I'm just done with the whole storyline. I love the Judgment Day. They're great. They're a great team. When they have all the belts, I love it. But I'm just ready for them to move on. And I think that besides the Judgment Day booking, I am a big fan of Raw. However, real quick, and Cody, Shaw just said Cody. True, Cody Rhodes, big presence on Raw felt. And last point, I will say though, um, people are saying SmackDown is the worst, but I will say with this addition of Kairi Sane and Asuka, my interest in SmackDown and Damage Control has significantly increased, and SmackDown is definitely like kind of getting closer and inching up to one of my favorites. So yeah.
Josh, I literally could not agree more on that one. I'm going to be honest. That was basically all the points I was going to say as well. And the comments agree as well, right? Most people are saying, either Raw or NXT and SmackDown being the worst. I mean, SmackDown this past week, I thought did a phenomenal job. It was the first episode in so long where the Bloodline weren't really involved, but the show had like multiple storylines going through it. We had the LWO and, like you said, Damage Control as well. So if SmackDown continues like that, I might change my answer, but for now I'll agree with you. Raw is my favorite. NXT's just marginally behind that, just because on NXT sometimes you don't know what you're gonna get, which is also the beauty of it, right? That's not me criticizing, it's the beauty of it. But with Raw, you know what you're gonna get. It's usually a very, very good show, but I also do agree as well. Judgment Day. Let's stop these main events, which are the same but a variety each week, because we've had the same thing since Mania. But now let's move on and let's do. This is basically the exact same question we discussed a few months ago, and when we discussed this question from last time, David said that he'd switch Brian Pillman to WWE. Of course, that has now happened. And I think Cedric was the trade he said to AEW. That's not quite happened yet. But now let's do it again. And the question is from IPDELTEL on Instagram, who is saying, if you could make one trade between AEW and WWE, who would the two wrestlers be? Now, I'm going to go last on this one, okay? Because I have a bit of a wild card. But I'm going to pass it first to David.
Well, you've come to the clairvoyant first, I see. You've made a wise choice. No, I still can't believe my Brian Pillman Jr. prediction came true. I said it as we'll do two lower card people and we'll see how it goes. And Cedric, come on, Cedric, go to AEW. Just make me look much smarter than I actually am. For my picks, the other way. Now, again, get faced with the same question. These two probably won't happen. These two are a lot more kind of out there. They're still, I think, doable, but I think they are two that are less likely. So I will start with my trade from AEW to WWE, which would be Hook. I don't think won't move, probably because of the connection with Taz, who obviously still is with the company, but they've kind of bungled the bag with Hook in AEW, and I do think WWE would, particularly under the Triple H creative process, who seems to favor the smaller guys a bit more than Vince McMahon did. I do think that Hook would be treated very, very well and like a big presence coming into. I think he would go to NXT, but I think he would properly kind of, he would go undefeated, and they would make a massive deal out of they would send Hook to the moon if they got him. From WWE to AEW, this one is harder. I have two. The more likely one, I'm going to say Tyler Bate, because I do think they can do much better than what they're doing with him now, which is nothing. They're just having him have very good matches on NXT. He's better than that. But I'm going to go with the War Raiders, formerly known as the Viking Raiders. Oh, sorry, currently known as the Viking Raiders, formerly known as the War Raiders, to go to AEW, just because I think they would match really nicely in with the tag division matches with the Gates of Agony and all those kind of things. I think they could be a really, really fun team in the tag team division. I did find it harder, I think, with going from WWE to AEW though, because I think WWE kind of are a lot more specific with having a lot of characters in there. So obviously the Viking stuff, they do feel like an integral part of the programming, whereas in AEW, as much as I love so many of the talents, they are just wrestling talents who I think can be transferred quite easily. It's very hard to kind of take things out of the WWE mold and put them into the AEW context as they currently stand. But I'm going to go with the War Raiders just because I think it'll be a bit of fun. And it would be nice to see. We've already seen Ivar get a lot of shine on Raw when Eric comes back. I'm hoping they either get more time to show it in WWE how great they are as long-form wrestlers, or they can go somewhere else that will really showcase that. Because New Japan War Raiders were just astonishingly good.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, the War Machine, I remember when I saw them in New Japan for the first time, they were excellent there. And I think WWE certainly could do more with them. Josh, what is your thoughts? Who would you trade?
Yeah, I think this is the best question in professional wrestling. It's my favorite question to answer because I feel like every time I answer it, there's a different answer because there's just so many options. You know, when I first heard that this question would be brought up a couple minutes before the stream, I was just staring at both rosters side by side and just like kind of smiling, like picturing how cool it would be to see him or her in WWE or AEW. So it's such a great question. Really glad we're talking about this. So I am going to do a tag team swap. So I'm assuming, it's kind of like a fair swap. We're not doing Prince Nana for, Cody Rhodes. No offense to Nana. I love you. Love your dance. But we're assuming this was a fair kind of swap or trade. So I chose 2 tag teams. So I'm going to take, I think Aussie Open to WWE. I know that Kyle Fletcher is kind of doing this Don Callis sort of thing that I'm not a fan of personally at all. I love Aussie Open. I think when Davis and Fletcher have matches, they always are great matches. I think the last time they wrestled on AEW actually was Wrestle Dream. So they haven't been together for about over a month. But I would love to see them in WWE. They would put on great matches. They have them against Roman and Solo, Finn and Priest, Alpha Academy. I think that's a little bit of a wild card there, the Aussie Open, but I love them so much. I love Fletcher. I love Davis. I think they're great. I mean, if they don't go to WWE, which, I don't see it happening somewhat soon, but I hope, this Kyle Fletcher thing kind of sims down a little bit and we see them back together. And for WWE to AEW, I would like to see the New Day. I mean, I feel like they've done all there is to do in WWE. They've had an unbelievable run, Hall of Fame run, guaranteed, first ballot. And I would love to see them face off against some of AEW's best. FTR, the New Day versus Young Bucks would be a main event in any pay-per-view. That would be, an absolute awesome battle to see. The Guns even. I think the New Day have done, everything there is to do in WWE. So I would love to see them, go to a new company and have all this fresh talent to really face off against. And I would love to see that happen. Yeah.
I would absolutely love that. And of course, then the Omega Xavier Woods match, which they've teased for years, which I think might be one of the most underrated dream matches out there too, because I just have a feeling Xavier Woods would certainly show up in that match. But Clark, what about you? What trade would you make? You're muted.
I really had to rack my brain for this one, but I'm excited to answer the question. I have 2 singles trades, if that's all right. The first one, and I think this one makes perfect sense because both sides benefit. We do a spear versus spear trade. I'm talking Ricky Starks for Bobby Lashley straight up. 2 single stars. One that I think can do some amazing things in the WWE, especially early with the youth and his connection to Cody Rhodes. The other, Bobby Lashley, headed to AEW, another big man, another machine, another wrecking ball to add to a group of wrestlers that just would be fresh matchups. And I think it really, really, really refresh Bobby Lashley. It's not one you would ever think of, but I think Bobby Lashley would be awesome on AEW. Very cool. Especially given his MMA background and all of that. You can lean into that more and just be as vicious as possible. My other one, and this one is interesting. You might laugh at me for this one, but I'm talking Danhausen, because WWE needs a little bit more entertainment in the E for Randy Orton. A healthy Randy Orton in AEW would be the happiest I could possibly be. I would love to see that one. I had one fair trade and one that's unfair. So I'm going Danhausen Orton for my second trade since we all picked multiple trades. I want Danhausen hanging out under the ring in WWE, and I want the Viper hanging out in AEW, putting on absolute bell-to-bell masterpieces. And I'm in for that.
What?
That's like
That's
I
the
said.
most unfair trade of all time. But anyway,
I said one fair, one
Kobe's-
unfair.
Kobe St. Clark is off his rocker.
Look, as the biggest Danhausen fan you will ever find, I expected many names to come out of Clark's mouth when he gave the trade the other way. Of all the names I thought were going to come out of that, Randy Orton was the last person I expected. So
It was. I thought it was gonna be. I thought it was gonna be Tyler Bate or something like that. A really good technical wrestler who could do great in AEW or along the same lines. Nope, Randy Orton. But let's now go to the comments quickly because Shard and I think who else said it as well. I believe I can't find the other comment now. Oh well. Shard saying AJ Styles, right? And AJ Styles to AEW was the original one I was going to say. And I think the one I said last time too. But that's not what I'm going to say. In terms of AEW to WWE, I'm going to agree. I think Ricky Starks is a really, really good one. I think it's almost inevitable he leaves anyway. So I'd let him go, right? But if I could trade anybody in WWE right now to AEW, I'd choose Shawn Michaels. And everyone's going to be like, what? He's not a wrestler anymore, whatever, all that. Well, of course not. But as the new booker for AEW Collision, even AEW Dynamite as well, AEW as a whole, right, if Tony Khan needs it all off his plate, or at least half of it off his plate, right? Because Tony Khan, he can't keep booking everything. He can't. It's impossible for any man to do it, especially as a man with as much going on as Tony Khan has, with Fulham Football Club, Jacksonville Jaguars, and another couple of companies, which not many people talk about as well. There's just too much going on. He can't do it all, right? The guy only has so many hours in a day. He needs somebody who can just take part of the workload off of him. And who better than Shawn Michaels? Shawn Michaels has done a phenomenal job. Absolutely phenomenal job booking NXT, right? But not only that. What is AEW currently lacking that made it feel so appealing in the first place? It being a competitor to WWE, it feeling like a true alternative, and for just have a bit more grit. Well, how about Shawn Michaels leaves his best friend and say, hang on a second, Hunter, I'm going to beat you. I'm going to shake your hand, we're still going to be buddies, but I'm going to beat you. I'm going to take AEW to that next level, because I want to prove that I'm better than you. I mean, listen, it's never going to happen, but that trade, for me personally, I think would fix a lot of AEW's issues and just be absolutely fascinating. I mean, I don't know what you guys...
Wild. I dig it 100%. It would make Shawn Michaels' influence on any wrestling company is going to be off the charts, right? It makes a ton of sense.
Yeah. All I would say... Sorry, go on, Carl.
No, go right ahead.
What I was going to say is with a short, it's never going to happen. It is
of
it
course
is a fan.
not.
It is no. But if let's assume for a sec that it did. My only thing would be that I'd want Michaels to adapt his booking to make it different from just doing the WWE style, because then it's not a competitor. Yeah. Then it's just two companies doing the same thing.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
What should make AEW stand out is that it is a different product from WWE. It is an actual alternative. That's not just taking exactly the same things that make WWE work and transporting it. It needs a different company with a different identity. Granted, the identity needs to be better than it is now for AEW. But
no, absolutely.
When I watch WWE and when I watch AEW, they do feel like two different companies right now. And I hope it regardless of who comes into booking, it doesn't happen, needs to stay like that.
Absolutely. And I mean, AEW, we said, had a lot of production issues before. I now think production-wise, it feels too much like WWE. So I think they need to keep the quality, but change it up slightly. Very, very quickly. Bobby saying, who would book NXT if Shawn Michaels left NXT? And the comments have agreed that Shard and Bobby will be taking over for that. Very, very quickly. Anthony, I can see you in the comments again. You need to send it over as like in text form over there. Message me if you're unsure about that, and I can help out with that. But yeah, so that is fantastic. Thank you guys so much for being in the comments today. We really appreciate you guys interacting with our show. It's always awesome when we get a lot of comment interaction. If you did enjoy, please like and subscribe. Share the video around to some friends as well. That's really, really, really helpful. We'll be back tomorrow to review Monday Night Raw. Thank you to Clark, thank you to David, and thank you to Josh for joining me today. It's been a fantastic show, and of course, thank you to everybody who submitted your questions via our Instagram story. Thank you guys so much, and I hope you all enjoy Monday Night Raw. See you guys tomorrow. Peace.